wow, I didn't expect him to really go to the Rams. He now has a good shot at being on a contending team that can go to the playoffs. The story and career of Matthew Stafford has been pretty underrated despite being a number one overall pick in 2009. Before Stafford took over in 2009, a total of 11 quarterbacks started a game for the Detroit Lions between 2000 and 2008. Since then, Stafford has started in 168 games for the Lions, and although his win percentage is below 500 with a 74-93-1 record, he was still able to lead Detroit to 3 playoff seasons in the 12 years that he was there. With all of this to account for, Matthew Stafford's journey to the NFL, along with how the Lions were even in position to even take him, is an interesting story to say the least. Born in Tampa Bay, Florida, his family would eventually move to Dallas, Texas while he was still very young. Stafford's high school career would take place at Highland Park High School, and if you know that area, you will know that Highland Park is one of the top-rated high school football teams in the country. Also, currently holding one of the highest-paid high school coaches in Texas, Randy Allen, making over $130,000 a year. Starting 3 games in high school, Matthew Stafford would throw for just under 9,000 yards and 91 passing touchdowns. His senior year would include 3,900 yards passing, 38 touchdowns, and a perfect 15-0 record. This perfect season would also include playing against Ryan Mallett's very own Texarkana, Texas. Mallett was just a junior at the time, but would also later play in the NFL as well. Being a 5-star recruit and the number 1 pro-style quarterback in the nation, Stafford would later go on to play at the University of Georgia. Before he would even play a down of college football, sports analysts such as Mel Kiper predicted Matthew Stafford to eventually be the first pick in the NFL draft. Talk about knowing the future. He would graduate early just to enroll at UGA. Stafford would see action and start in his first college game against the University of Alabama Birmingham, winning 34-0. And by doing this, he became the first true freshman quarterback to start for UGA since Quincy Carter in 1998. Later on, head coach Mark Wright would officially name him the starter for the rest of the season. With a roller coaster start to his college career, Matthew Stafford would of course continually get better each year. The highlights of his sophomore year would be leading the Bulldogs to an 11-2 record, beating top-ranked Florida, Auburn, and eventually Hawaii in the Sugar Bowl. In his final year in college in 2008, Stafford would lead the SEC with 235 completions while passing for 3,400 yards and throwing for a season record 25 touchdowns for his school. UGA would later beat Michigan State in the Capital One Bowl 24-12. And of course, Stafford would forego his senior season and enter the NFL draft. Matthew Stafford would be the number 1 overall pick in the 2009 draft, taken by an 0-16 Detroit Lions team. And me, being 9 years old at the time, not really knowing much about Stafford, I thought he was going to be done for going to this Lions team. Like, how in the world could one man go to the worst team in NFL history and actually be able to make something good out of it? Shortly after being drafted, Stafford would agree to a 6-year contract with over $41 million in guarantees. That amount would prove to be the most guaranteed ever by a rookie for about 2 months. Going to an 0-16 team right off the bat, you'd expect a rookie quarterback to go through growing pains, and that's exactly what happened. Head coach Jim Schwartz would automatically make Stafford the starting quarterback heading into the season. His first career start would be against the Bounty Gate New Orleans Saints, who would go on to win the Super Bowl. Stafford would throw 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and Detroit would get destroyed 45-27. Week 3 in a 1 o'clock game versus the then Washington Redskins with 40,000 in attendance would be where Matthew Stafford would get his first career win. Snapping a losing streak that dated all the way back to the 2007 season in a 34-13 loss to the Green Bay Packers in Week 17. A small win in the right direction for Detroit, but it would be short-lived as the Lions would go on a 6-game losing streak. In the second and last win of the 2009 season, Stafford would become the youngest quarterback in NFL history, other than Dan Marino, to throw 5 touchdowns in a 38-37 win over the Cleveland Browns. His rookie season would end abruptly by being placed on injured reserve. Having a 2-8 record while throwing for 2,200 yards, 13 touchdowns, 20 interceptions would be the final stats of his rookie season. After missing the final month of the 2009 season, injuries would torture the Lions' young quarterback early on in 2010, injuring his right shoulder and later on re-injuring it in mid-season. He would require shoulder surgery that would put his sophomore season to rest after only playing a total of 3 games. The Lions opened the 2011 season with high hopes, considering the fact now that Stafford was in year 3. Most quarterbacks nowadays are expected to make the leap forward by year 2, and especially year 3, and that is exactly what Stafford did. After coming back from shoulder surgery the year before, Stafford would come back and light up the NFL with over 5,000 yards passing, 41 touchdowns, and leading the Lions to the playoffs for the first time since 1999. Having a top offense while averaging almost 30 points a game, Matthew Stafford would win Comeback Player of the Year. With this great success still early on in his career, you would expect that it could only get better, but that wasn't the case exactly. 2012 was a down year in every sense of the word for Stafford. By this time, he and Calvin Johnson established a great quarterback wideout tandem. And being on the Madden cover, Megatron would have 122 catches and nearly 2,000 yards receiving, while Stafford barely had more touchdowns than interceptions, even with 4,900 yards passing. And the Lions would drop all the way down to a 4-12 record. By off-season 2013, Stafford had proved to show the Lions organization enough promise, so he was given a 3-year, $53 million extension with $41 million guaranteed, breaking records and airing it out along with Reggie Bush having the last great season of his career, plus a much improved defense, will have the Lions sitting happily at a 5-3 record going into the bye. But a 2-6 meltdown where they would lose 5 games by a field goal or less would not only take playoff hopes away from them, but the job of head coach Jim Schwartz as well. Jim Caldwell, who had just been the Ravens' offensive coordinator, would now get a shot at redemption at the helm in Detroit. His last season of being head coach would involve the Indianapolis Colts going 2-14, but things would be different here. Drafting a pass target such as Eric Ebron, who would coincidentally see his better years on another team later on, the Lions would rebound from the year before with an 11-5 record in second place in NFC North. Stafford, who would finally have another target come alive to throw to, Golden Tate, who would accumulate over 1,300 yards on 99 catches. The trio of Stafford, Megatron, and Tate would all make the Pro Bowl, in which Stafford would win Pro Bowl MVP, but not before they were downed once again in a 24-20 loss to the Dallas Cowboys in the wild card. Just like the last time they made the playoffs, Detroit just couldn't learn how to be consistent. While starting the season 0-5, Stafford would have only 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions the following year. After a 45-10 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, Stafford and the Lions would finally decide to flip the switch, even though it would be too late. Detroit would rattle out victory after victory to finish 7-9 after starting 1-7. Stafford would throw for 4,200 yards passing, 32 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. Megatron would retire, and people began to go on and on about another wasted generational talent in Detroit. Stafford would prove that he didn't need to rely on just Megatron either to produce. 2016 would be the last time, as of right now, that Matthew Stafford and the Lions would know what it feels like to be playing in January. And this would be the second time making the playoffs under head coach Jim Caldwell. A 9-7 team with no Pro Bowlers on either side of the ball, their now 28-year-old quarterback would finish the year with 4,300 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, and a completion percentage of 65.3%. They would be met by the Seattle Seahawks in the wild card and get shut down 26-6. Stafford will follow up this season with another stellar 2017 by throwing 29 touchdowns on 4,400 yards passing and a 99.3 rating. Detroit would go 9-7 once again, but a tough loss to the Cincinnati Bengals late in the season will cause their season to come to an end. All of this would come after signing a 5-year, $135 million contract extension, which did in fact make him the highest paid player in NFL history at the time. 2018 would mark the third head coaching change of Stafford's career. This time under first-time head coach Matt Patricia from the Patriots coaching staff. His hire would prove to be a downgrade as both sides of the football regressed and Matthew Stafford also took a step back. With the offense on the bottom half of the league, along with an average at best defense, Detroit would finish with a 6-10 record and the Matt Patricia hate train would officially be underway. Following this season, Stafford would have the best start of his entire career, reaching 40,000 yards passing while also throwing 2,500 yards, 19 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. Stafford's season would be cut short due to fractures in his spine and eventually get put on injured reserve, thus ending his stretch of 136 straight starts. After his departure that season, Detroit would completely fall apart, never winning another game, finishing 3-12-1. And in the COVID season of 2020, our 32-year-old quarterback was able to play all 16 games, throwing for 4,000 yards and 26 touchdowns. After a 4-7 start to the season, Matt Patricia would be outed as coach of the Lions while being replaced by Darrell Bevell. Having literally the worst defense in the entire league, opposing teams were able to score 40-plus points 5 times, and the Lions would finish 5-11. Going for his now 13th season at age 33 now for the Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford still has a lot of football left in him. You see quarterbacks now still making a run well into their late 30s and even 40s now. And having a quarterback that is as talented as this former number 1 overall pick from Georgia, to be surrounded by a capable offense and a top 5 defense on the other side of the ball, Stafford can finally know what it feels like to be on a contending team in the NFL. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked the video, like and comment how you think Matthew Stafford will do on the Los Angeles Rams in 2021. And if you like me, subscribe.